Steve Tabachnyuk was a folk hero among the Ukrainians in Canada for the first half-century. He was Archie Bunker and Laurel and Hardy rolled into one, and his trademark was the dulya, for centuries the Ukrainian symbol of defiance. Steve said, I was, I am, and I will be. In other words, I existed, I exist, and I will exist. He showed them the dulya, and he did his own thing. In the east was the Russian Empire of Tsar Nicholas. In the west was the Austro-Hungarian monarchy under Franz Joseph, and the Ukraine was divided between them. The land was rich, but it was owned by absentee landlords, Polish, Austrian, Russian. Most of the peasants owned less than 2 acres, not enough to live on. Farming methods were primitive. Their lives weren't much different from that of their medieval ancestors. 80% couldn't read or write. They had the highest rate of suicide and the lowest standard of living in all of Europe. And the children, 1 in 5 died. There were rumors of quick riches and cheap land in Canada. Thousands abandoned Western Ukraine. Sometimes whole villages set out together to the land of promise. "200,000 came in the first wave. They took the CPR as far west as Edmonton and were dropped off along the way. Edmonton, Mundare, Prince Albert, Saskatoon, Yorkton, Dauphin, Oakburn, Brandon. Winnipeg. 1 in 10 went no further. Jacob Midanik also made that journey. He's 90 years old and he's owned Providence church goods for the last 60 years. Some call him nationalist, some call him socialist. Some say he's Catholic, others say he's Orthodox. Some even say he's an atheist. Most people thought he died a long time ago. The story of his life began like any other immigrant's. His father was a Galician peasant and worked for an Austrian landlord. As a child, Jacob helped out, and for a while it seemed he would follow in his father's footsteps. But he would take a different path. His mother had other plans for him. She was illiterate, but determined that her son get an education. He was the brightest student in the class, and also the most mischievous. More than anything, he loved to draw. His family had always worked the land, but he was determined to be an artist. Though his father objected, Jacob went to a Polish textile design school, putting his family into debt. But textile design wasn't exactly what he had in mind, so he also apprenticed with a Polish icon painter. His first painting only confirmed his father's suspicions that all artists were immoral. Jacob wanted to study in Paris, but he needed money. So he set out for Canada in 1911 to get his share of the quick riches. It was to be a temporary stay. 70 years later, he's selling icons and rosaries on Main Street in Winnipeg. He's lucky if he gets a customer a day. He never thought he'd end up selling church goods when he first arrived. Winnipeg, 1911, gateway to the West, Chicago of the North, the fastest growing city in Western Canada. 500,000 immigrants passed through here. Even Mary Pickford and Charlie Chaplin paid a visit. It was the most amazing place this 19-year-old had ever seen, and within 48 hours, Jacob was out working on the railroad. If he had known it was going to be like this, he'd never have left the old country. They were paid $1.35 a day, and $4.50 a week was deducted for room and board. After 3 or 4 months, most of them were still broke. It wasn't much better than the life they had left behind. The Ukrainians were the largest single group, but they were identified as Galicians, Ruthenians, Bukovinians, Hutsulians, depending on what region they came from. The foreman called them all Jack, as their names were too difficult to pronounce. Over the years, 10,000 died in accidents. 100,000 were injured. Young Midanik worked among them and saw their predicament. He got an idea for a cartoon character called Vujko Štif Tabachnyuk. Young people like to laugh at an old fellow. In addition to this, you had to create a Tabachnyuk who was fat, and he did stupid things like them. On the one hand, they laughed at him. On the other hand, they tried not to be like him. They wanted to be better. Štif first appeared in 1912 and was published in over 20 Ukrainian newspapers across the country. His goal was not only to entertain, but to educate. Everybody loved him, but nobody wanted to be like him.
Strong man, Galician.
You bet. Extra gang number 4. Work my fingers to the bone. Up, Canada.
Hurry up, Donny.
Comrades, the bar's no good, no cookies, no cabbage, no nothing. Where is the justice?
Get rid of the cook.
Say, boss, what's the matter? Your bar no good, cook no good, mama no good, you son of a gun crooked, see?
Well.
Jesus Christ, this is a free country? Oh, Canada, you betrayed me. You take so many men from their wives.
Years later, those memories are still strong. He paints Christ as a worker carrying a cross of railway tracks. Those difficult days on the extra gang are hard to forget. In those days, there was a strict caste system. The Anglo-Saxons called themselves whites, and they were management. The immigrants were called foreigners, and they were the workers. Jacob, being educated and refined, was suspected of being a white. The workers thought he was a spy for the CPR, but he won the trust of these illiterate men by writing their letters home and reading their replies.
My dear Marussia, the work is hard, the food is bad. I can only save a little. I will send for you as soon as I can. Canada is not what they said.
My dear Ivan, I'm worried about you. So many men have disappeared. Where is Brandon? Is it far? When will you send for us? We miss you.
Štif's wife, Yavdocha, was one of the first to arrive.
When you get rid of these old clothes, you'll be a real missus, I'm telling you.
What do I know, Stefan?
Don't say Stefan, say Štif, because this is Canada. You don't want people to think you're a stupid immigrant.
Oh, do they say so? I'm telling you, I look better than the professor's wife. You bet. I'm a real lady now. The barber said to me, Mrs., you sure beat the devil.
Holy mackerel, have you gone crazy?
Shut up!
You old bag wasted all my money and brought me shame as well.
Shut up, you old goat. Don't you know this is Canada? Here, take that!
Ooh! Can this be me? If this was the old country, I'd fix her wagon. I'd have a little talk with you, Mrs. Big Shot Tabachnyuk.
Most of them were not as lucky as Štif. There were 7 men for every Ukrainian woman. They were lonely. They didn't understand English. In the winters, they were unemployed. There was no relief, no welfare. They spent what little money they had amusing themselves as best they could.
My own brew, fellows. It burns like gasoline.
Дай Боже, boss.
I'm the kind of guy who likes to share. I don't like to drink alone.
Watch it, uncle. Policeman.
I don't care.
Halt! I want you.
Hello, John. Want a drink?
All right, mister. Tomorrow to court.
Ah, have a heart. Can't you see my missus is crying?
Hello, Uncle. Christos Voskres.
Tato said there are 2 more kegs.
Bastards, just wait till I get out of here.
Their behavior only confirmed the opinion of the establishment that the whites were superior. Winnipeg was dominated by a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant group who believed that to be Canadian was to be British. It was their golden age, and they lived in style. Mrs. Ross and her daughters imported their fashions from Paris, and the men drank nothing but the best champagne. From the velvet armchairs of the Manitoba Club, the St. Charles Country Club, the Winnipeg Board of Trade, the 100 families ruled the city. And the only time the rich met the poor was when there was a job to be done.
Good day, missus. You lords. Me work, that's all.
Now, you clean and don't steal.
That's right. You tell him, John. Tell him not to touch any of our precious things. Slowly, slowly, my good fellow. Watch your step.
You look after your own husband or you won't be bust for long. Jesus Christ! A whole cupboard full. It's a crime to let it go to waste. Oh, you wonderful battle. 7 years the devil had you. Not a night went by when I didn't give you the eye. Want a drink, John? Come on, you son of a gun, lazy bugger. Drink or I'll drink all myself.
Steve, you're no gentleman. Get out of my house.
Get me an axe!
Skidoo! Come along now, Johnny.
I won't go, not for a million. It's better here than for priest in all country.
Не можна було аж їх дуже винувати.
You couldn't really blame them because they didn't know any better. And they created troubles for us, it's true.
Були весілля,
There'd be a wedding.
вони там
They made their mark by fighting.
Поліція вже готова.
The police would be waiting with their paddy wagons for them.
Була тут
There was too much change and too much freedom.
і завелика воля.
In addition to this, when he put on a fancy suit, I'm telling you, you couldn't even approach him.
То туди не приступати до нього.
That's why they created
Тому вони
scandals.
робили нам скандал.
The troublemakers were a small minority, but you wouldn't know it from the sensational headlines. After 4 months on the railroad, Jacob was still broke. He was also concerned with the Jacks and the bad image they were creating for the community. He decided he could help. In 1912, he was accepted into the Ruthenian Training School in Brandon, established to provide bilingual Ukrainian teachers. He took his place in the front ranks among other young intellectuals. The atmosphere was definitely more to his liking. Besides, the job would pay more. Paris became a possibility again. His first job was in the Gimli district in a one-room schoolhouse. He taught 4 grades. And one day, he made a guest appearance in his own comic strip.
Listen carefully, children. The Earth revolves on its axis in 1 day, and around the sun in 1 year. Yes, Vico, can I help you?
Well, I didn't come here to look at you. Why are you filling these little bastards' heads with nonsense that the Earth revolves?
Oh, are you interested in geography, Uncle? The Earth revolves, Uncle, and because of this we have night and day. It also revolves around the sun, and because of this we have the 4 seasons.
The Earth is flat. Maybe your head is revolving, Professor.
Not all his visitors were like Steve. In the evenings, he taught the old people English, and they inspired him to continue his painting.
Заспіваймо ми в Канаді, хоч робота нам не владі, лиш не треба слінувати, треба добре корчувати. Є позички, є оріхи, мають діти досить втіхи, є тут ягід подостаток, ще й підпеньок на додаток.
The local people thought he was almost a saint, and at 22 he was considered quite a catch. He also had a few hidden talents. He loved their weddings and dances. He was beginning to love these people and feel at home among them. But he still dreamed of Paris and returning home to marry his childhood sweetheart. It was August 1914. Canada marched to war, but there was anger against the foreigners, particularly those from Austro-Hungary. They were labeled enemy aliens. 6,000 Ukrainians were interned and their citizenship revoked. Some of them celebrated Christmas Day in the livestock barns at the Brandon Fairgrounds. The bilingual schools were closed. Midanik lost his job and he watched his Ukrainian school books burnt on the steps of the legislative building. War swept over his village. His sweetheart disappeared, never to be heard of again. Return home was impossible. The war was over, and as the boys were welcomed back, Jacob knew that he could never return home, never study in Paris. Without family, penniless, isolated in the rural areas, labeled a foreigner, he didn't know what to do. But salvation came in the form of his best friend, Bishop Budka, who advised him to come to Winnipeg and take over a church goods store. Winnipeg? Roaring 20s. Winnipeg was booming once again, and Jacob was in the middle of it. One day, the Ukrainian voice asked, "Why did our young artist get married so secretly and so quickly? And who is she?" She was a widow from Oakburn, Manitoba. Her name was Catherine Vasilka. She helped him open the church goods store. The year was 1920. Religion was strong, and Jacob filled orders from as far away as Australia. He employed over 30 people, and under his direction they painted icons and adorned churches from Winnipeg to Vancouver. Some of those churches are still standing, but now they're just a curiosity for the occasional tourist passing through.
Алло, пані Майданюк, ви вдома? Пані Майданюк, де ви є? Пані Майданюк?
Оце то ви?
These two old friends haven't seen each other for 10 years. In the 20s, Steve was given more important tasks in the pages of Vuyko, the national lampoon of the Ukrainian community. It was a monthly broadsheet created by a group of young intellectuals who believed themselves to be the guardians of the community. Jacob was the editor, and his right-hand man was Dmitro Elchishin.
І ваша висока, і моя пека, і то решта колеги.
With equal enthusiasm, they attacked the politicians, the religious leaders, the businessmen. No one was spared. The paper lasted 1 year. Maybe we can do it again. Who knows what we're still capable of?
Yeah.
It was a prosperous time. His family grew and the community grew. Everyone had their love affair with the automobile.
250 green ones, and don't argue.
All right, but throw in the crank. Very good. Tomorrow I drive to town for a beer, maybe next year to the old country. Oh, what's going to happen now? I hope you guys had confession. It's bad enough when a cow runs away on you, but this thing is even worse. I'm going to drive around the house until she gets tired. Hey, help, stop, or I'll beat you up. You should drive people, better drive the devil to hell.
Father Moiseichuk serves 12 parishes in the rural areas, but like Midanik, he's not as busy as he used to be. But if there's a soul to be saved, one must continue. I have a problem. There's a letter from Vancouver. They're asking me to paint an icon for them. But I can't. I don't know how to refuse. What would you advise? Should I accept this order or not?
Panie Majdanik, wy jak jest entuzjastyczna osoba.
Mr. Midanik, you are an enthusiastic person, and your character and your primitive love of your people, as a good artist, as a painter, do not give up God's work. As long as you have strength, as long as your spirit survives, I advise you to hold firm. Because in time you will be justly rewarded in the kingdom of God for your work. I have no more time. I have to go. I wish you all the best, and may God bless you. Say hello to your wife. Thank you for your kindness and the opportunity to visit with you. With God, goodbye.
Hurry up, Steph, or we'll be late for a church.
Don't worry, Yevdocho.
After the service, make sure you don't get drunk at the party and don't pinch the girls.
Oakburn, Manitoba. It's the 65th wedding anniversary of Mikhail and Vasilina Vasilka. Jacob was the best man at their wedding in 1913.
Отець і Син і Святий Дух, все святає, несущу тряще Тройці гідне Божество царство. Нехай благословить вас, дасть вам довге життя, радість у вашій родині, радість ваших дітей, внуків і правнуків на многі літа. Амінь. Христос воскрес! Христос воскрес!
Beautiful, nice borscht.
4 generations of Ukrainian Canadians have gathered here today. Jacob's wife of 60 years is here, as are his 3 children and grandchildren. Some can't speak the language, others have changed their names, but they all come here out of respect for their ancestors. There was a time when everyone knew the name of Steve Tabachnyuk. He was a great hero to his people. Today, not many remember, and Midanik is just another old man. Well, we've finally arrived. We're part of Canada. But what price have we had to pay? What have we lost? Will she remember the language? Will she remember where she came from? Does it really matter? Well, Steve, I think it's time to put you away, old friend. You've done your job. You've earned your rest. And so have I.